Good evening. I am the narrator, and welcome to my parlor. Tonight's topic is the Black-Eyed Children. Regular listeners know the Black-Eyed Children. For those stumbling across this, they are childlike figures with solid black eyes, seen outside homes and vehicles. They appear either alone or in groups of 2 to 3, and vary in seeming age from prepubescent to their early teens. In a few stories, they seem slightly older. They ask in monotone to be allowed in. When declined, they repeat themselves and grow insistent. They almost never succeed. Their phrasing is odd, awkward, unlike contemporary vernacular. Their clothes are described as dumpy or outdated. Normally, they relent and are never seen again. Percipients always describe incredible fear, and often don't notice the eyes at first. I forget when I first heard of them. It was likely in my early 20s, when first immersed in Forteana. They have never been a primary focus of mine, though have always stood out to me. Obviously, skeptics dismiss them as urban legend, along with the hook hand and the clown and babysitter, but thousands claim to have seen them. Reports are consistent, differing enough to suggest natural variation. The figures' number, exact phrasing, and seeming age differ from story to story. People either forget or deliberately change the original template, or again, natural variation. Some stories are obvious creepypastas, like those with stock horror elements where they are tied to local legends and so forth, but most seem legitimate. What are they? What is their aim? To actually enter the home or vehicle, or just to scare the person? It could be the latter. Many paranormal entities come and go. They appear, scare the percipient, and then vanish. Hit and run, sating their appetites. Again, every percipient reports extreme fear. Maybe they're standard parasites. Notice they almost always fail. In a few stories, people claim or are claimed to have let them in, but these can't be verified. Yet they persist, if nothing else, and yet their tactics never improve. The black eyes, the monotone, the off-kilter phrasing. People frighten and slam the door in their faces. Seeming more normal might work, yet they never try. Maybe they don't see how off-putting they are. Maybe they do, but can't change it. Maybe their black eyes are permanent. Many Forteans believe entities are adept shapeshifters, but they may not be. Though, if BEKs are parasites with no intention of gaining entrance, all the above makes perfect sense. But what if they are trying to enter? What would happen if they did? What fate would befall the percipient? Some people have claimed electrical and appliance malfunctions after encounters with them, even if they never entered. This often happens in UFO sightings, as I have discussed. Again, it likely links to electromagnetic phenomena, or implies electromagnetic energy is involved. Maybe the BEKs are related to UFO-nauts, or are the same entities in other forms. Maybe their technology is the same, for lack of a better term. They seem to need permission. It keeps with age-old claims about vampires and other entities. Others have pointed this out and elaborated on it with examples from folklore. I won't belabor it further. Again, if listeners haven't heard, they can research on their own. It's one reason I doubt they're tied to UFO-nauts. UFO-nauts don't need permission. They enter as they please, though their motives seem to differ. Maybe the BEKs aren't so powerful. Or abductees and contactees are compromised and don't even know. The BEK are said to grow desperate if declined, and to persist like they fear something. Most researchers think this is a pose to garner sympathy, but maybe their fear is real. Maybe they're dying, if non-human intelligences can die, and need to feed off the percipient. Maybe they report to masters. If so, learning who would be of interest. But again, what are they? There are theories. Demons would make sense. They could seek not just to feed off the percipient momentarily, but attach to their homes and persons, long-term, eventually needing exorcisms. Again, I doubt they are UFO-nauts. They could be human, that is, human children temporarily possessed or controlled by an outside intelligence. Their appearance could be temporarily altered, or an unintended side effect. If so, it might explain some missing children cases. What kind of technology would be at play? Again, electromagnetic? Then again, it would be implausible that they could leave home at night beneath their parents' notice. There are stories of black-eyed adults. They are less common and, best I know, appeared later. Maybe the adults are their parents. Maybe They are a biological species. The adult stories are themselves interesting. They occur in a wider array of times and locations, often in stores and in broad daylight. Usually the percipient is shopping or standing around when they notice them, and then their eyes. Often the entity will turn and look at them for a moment or two. They don't speak, just unnerve. These would seem to lend credence to the parasite theory. Back to the young ones. The variation in their speech and appearance. Some are black-haired and pale-skinned, looking gothic. This seems to play to expectations. Maybe our expectations, art, and entertainment are based on historical interactions with such beings. Some have normal complexions and brown, red, or blonde hair. Again, maybe natural variation. Maybe some look more human, not that black-haired folks don't. The more normal ones seem no more successful. Maybe the black hair and pale skin are their natural, and the lighter hair and healthier skin are affectations. Maybe some change appearance better than others. Again, this suggests biology. Maybe they are organisms and can consciously change their melanin. Thus again, the notion of feeding. Can an organism subsist on fear? Have emotions a physical substance? Can they be converted into one? The study would be of interest. The variation in their speech is interesting. Some speak very strangely with odd phrasing. Others speak almost normally, just almost. Those that approached Brian Bethel, for instance, almost talk like normal kids, with just a few things off. Again, maybe this is natural variation. Or maybe some just speak human better than others. Or maybe the robotic speech is their default and some are better at imitating humans than others. Maybe some are smarter and more perceptive. Study us closer. The varied clothes. Again, some dress shabbily, some normally. Some wear contemporary clothes, others antiquated. Maybe these actually are clothes found in different locations, and they wear what they find. Maybe the clothes are supernatural apports. Maybe they pick their clothes, or it's just whatever they can manifest. Maybe some have better fashion sense, or a better sense of what would blend in than others. Again, the Victorian clothes seem to conform to expectations, and again, our historic encounters with such figures may have inspired our expectations. The odd clothes and speech are consistent with those of other entities, like the men in black and phantom strangers. Either they are the same entities in other forms, or are, more broadly, cut from the same cloth. Maybe they're unrelated, but subject to the same processes. How do they pick their targets? Do they watch them from a distance? If so, for how long? In what settings? Their homes, through their windows, their jobs, the general store? By what criteria? Perceived naivety? Easy to frighten? It's eerie to think they could be watching at all times beneath our notice. Note that none of their percipients knew of them before seeing them. They had no idea, no context for or of their experience. Folks who do of them never seem to see them, or who do know of them never seem to see them. Maybe they know who has and hasn't. How? What substance are they made of? Their footsteps are never heard before they appear, and they are never seen leaving after. Maybe they form out of thin air and fade back into it. Maybe, again, they are solid and have cloaking technology. What would happen if they touched a percipient? What would one feel like? Like a human hand or like something else? Some folks claim to have ailed after their encounters. This may be deliberate, a sample of what is to come if they're granted entrance, or could just be a side effect of their presence. Maybe they carry pathogens. Where do they come from? Where do they appear from? Where do they go when they vanish? Where are they when they're not seen? What does this realm look like, assuming it has a landscape and topography? Maybe it's just a void in our time and space, just at a different perceptual frequency. Two stories have always stood out to me and may shed some light. I forget when I first heard them, and I forget their sources, but they differ from others. In one, a man was in a city at night standing outside his truck when he saw two black-eyed little girls approaching from across the street. They were discussing him aloud as if he couldn't hear them. "Surely this one won't turn us down. Surely he'll help us." Or something to that effect. Maybe their fear and desperation was sincere. Maybe they didn't realize he could hear them or that their speech was rude. They seemed to have picked him at random on the spot. He saw them approaching from a distinct direction. One wonders where they were before. Whatever. He boarded his truck and drove off before they could engage him. In the other story, a man was driving through a forest one night when he passed a large grass field. There he saw a small group of them emerge from the trees. Best I recall, he watched briefly, freaked out, and continued driving. Maybe they resided somewhere in those woods and would return later. Eerie to think of them living as we speak in desolate yet accessible and mundane places. Maybe they're in more than one woods. Maybe they're in caves or abandoned buildings. One wonders of unsolved disappearances. I dreamt of one once. It was Halloween night, 2, 3, 4 years ago, I forget which. In it, I answered my door. There stood a black-eyed little girl, I think in a black dress, smiling at me. I then awoke and wasn't afraid. I doubt it was paranormal. I had read of them for years, and it was, after all, Halloween. As always, if you have encountered these things or have insights and would like to discuss them on this channel, feel free to email me at tparish1@new.rr.com.